Jackson. Okay. Like to stand. Dear Lord, we thank you for this beautiful town and its citizens. The fact that we can all work together in peace towards one goal, the success of quality. Please protect those that sacrifice their lives and their families. Protect us here and abroad. And please make our decisions to move forward in that light and in your glory. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone here to accept the proclamation on behalf of Juneteenth Month? In that case, I'll just read it. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863 to the Southern states declaring that all slaves were free. And whereas the Civil War ended on April 9th, 1865, when General Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger and Union troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, shared the news that all slaves were free. And whereas Juneteenth, the oldest public celebration of the end of slavery in the United States, commemorates African American freedom and celebrates the fundamental truth that all people are created equal and liberty is a right given by God, our Creator. And whereas Juneteenth 2021 celebrates the history and achievements of African Americans and reminds us of the promises of freedom, equality, and opportunity. Now therefore does Ricky Waring, Mayor of the Town of Somerville, hereby proclaim June 2021 Juneteenth Month, where special events, programs, and services will be presented by county agencies, departments, schools, businesses, and nonprofits in commemoration of Juneteenth.
Moving on the agenda, public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and June 30th, 2022. Administrator, Mr. Becker, Administrator, and opening up the public hearing on the budget.
Mayor and Council, you guys have the budget ordinance, the amended one, budget for 2022 is balanced at $43,054,987. If you guys have any questions or anything for me, please let me know. And obviously, it's the public hearings, public. We included that, one, 1%. However, I believe that in the past year, the state had covered that and they're no longer covering that. So they're coming, they're coming to the employee, working with the employer, and they're not doing the dishes and stuff.
Questions, any more questions on the budget? Any questions that you'd like to ask now? Straight on this budget going into this year. Seems to be a good budget. And
hopefully we can get everything done with what our department heads and as requested through our administrator, and she moves on to us and we can get these things done for the next year. Now is your time to ask any questions from her and try to get an answer. If anybody's got any questions, we certainly welcome those questions at this time. Okay, no other questions, we'll move on down to the next thing on the agenda. Approval of the minutes of previous meetings.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from A to B, C to D, unless there's somebody.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve A, B, C, D, and D on the agenda. Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand and voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Ayes. Public comment. Items in public comment.
Yes, sir. First, CJ Westfall.
I wanted to thank the Finance Committee for your approval of the Community Resource Center's Wanza funds. There's a lot of great organizations in Somerville that receive these funds. During the pandemic, Lewis Smith and the dozens of volunteers that work with the Community Resource Center stepped up and provided hope for the community when many were losing their jobs and they were unsure of how they would feed their families. So if they can organize something like that, I'm sure they'll do a terrific job with the Kwanzaa Festival. Also want to encourage everyone to keep an eye out for the upcoming annual school supply giveaway coming in August, put on by the Community Resource Center, that has benefited over 1,000 children the last 2 years that I've been involved with them. So they're a great organization. Thank you to the Finance Committee who's approved that. Hopefully these funds are approved tonight. Thanks.
Sure.
Next, we have Mike Taylor.
I just want to take a quick second to talk about 404 West Richardson on the agenda tonight. I currently have the property under contract. I've requested a rezoning of the property from GR2 to GR5 with the intention of splitting the lot, building a house in the corner, most likely is my primary residence. The lot is currently 31,200 square feet, which is 0.6 of an acre. The existing Sears house is approximately 2,000 square feet and is located way to the far right of the property. It's actually 4 feet off of the right side of the property. So the whole left corner, which is 120 feet off of that house to the other corner, is left as basically a large vacant lot. The property currently has 2 entrances, one from Richardson and one. It appears as maybe at one point there was something on that corner, maybe a house or some structure, but that's to be determined. So, but I'm asking to split the lot exactly in half. It'd be 80 feet on one and 80 feet on the other. I've spoken with the folks on the Laurel side of the property. Also, a bunch of people on that block, the Duncans, Rudd Smith, the Harbisons, everyone's aware of the project and in favor of it. I know a few weeks ago, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and unanimously approved the rezoning. And then Tuesday, the Planning Development Committee held a meeting and in a 2-to-1 vote recommended denial of the rezoning. I know the meeting Tuesday, there was talk about the rezoning, that some of the rezoning the council regrets in past scenarios, but I feel in this scenario, it would make that corner a lot better. As it stands right now, it just looks like a vacant corner sitting out there. I believe the other concern was trying to split that corner into 3 parcels or somehow get 3 residences on that property, and that is certainly not my intent, nor do I see any way that that would be possible. So my intent is to build a house on the corner and split it into 2 lots. I've lived in Somerville my entire life, except for the time I spent in the military and overseas. I have my residence here in the historical district. I've got several other properties here in town. And I recently received a Historical Preservation Society award for the renovations I did on a house at 213 South Laurel. So I take care and pride in this community, and I feel the rezoning would only make that corner better. I feel if it's denied, then it's going to remain what it is, a vacant, open cornered lot. So, yeah, thank you for your time and consideration.
All right. Miss Linda Saylor Marchant.
And Violet Saylor, my mother. We'd like to thank the mayor, the council, Ms. Messervy, all of the town representatives, employees for proclaiming Juneteenth as this holiday, city holiday in the town of Somerville, recognizing the descendants of slaves. It's an honor to have Somerville as one of the first cities in the state of South Carolina in 2021 to issue that proclamation. And I would like to present Juneteenth ABC, a book written by Dorchester County resident and essential hospital worker and her 3 children. While they were in quarantine, they worked on a project together to explain what Juneteenth means. And I'd like to present that to the council. And thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's the last public comment I have for agenda items.
Was that the last public comment? Any more public comments? Okay, we move down to petition. Okay, Beth, go ahead.
For pending bills and resolutions, second and final reading of an ordinance to sell the town-owned property referenced below in accordance with the memorandum of understanding between the town of Somerville and JJR Development, 213 West 2nd South Street, TMS number 13707040007, 208 Cedar Street, TMS number 13707040005, and 210 West Richardson Avenue, TMS number 13707040002.
Mr. Mayor, I would move second and final reading of the ordinance.
Second. Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to adopt an operating budget for the town of Somerville, South Carolina for the fiscal period beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve that budget.
Second. Have a motion and a second to accept the budget for next year. If no discussion, all in favor say signify by raising your right hand.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yeah.
The budget that was given first reading that was in the packet is not in balance. And there's some, I believe, to put it in balance, there were some fairly significant changes, one of which was changing total transfers in and other financing sources from 5.3 million to 6.5 million. So I don't think we can just give second reading to what we gave first reading to and have a budget in balance.
Mr. Mayor, if you,
Yeah, I'll turn that over to Ms. Rebecca. I think we've got that worked out. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
as going through the last ordinance and looking at the information that was provided, there were some, the bottom revenue numbers was $500 off. Going back and looking at what the actual data was and what the actual numbers should be, for it to match up with the total, the expenditures, which was always 43,054,987. I went through and hand calculated those numbers. So the ones that I emailed out to you guys and the ones that are at your seat are the correct numbers. So you would need to amend the budget ordinance from first reading to include those numbers.
I'll make a motion to amend the budget balance as we presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, everybody understand that? Bill?
Yeah, I think I understand it. On this first sheet here, you had $43,054, and then you had 4,987, and then in the last numbers you took the 500 out.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yes, sir.
balanced it to be 987 on the end, right?
Yes, sir. So the expenditures were always correct. So the last one that you received, the expenditures were correct, and that matched up with what had been shown to you. The revenues were off by 500. So it was, what you saw before was 43,054,487 versus 987. And in looking at the actual revenues and bringing those over from the spreadsheets, I think that there was just an error in what line items were brought over where, but these are the actual numbers, and that's the actual calculation that you should have that needs to be approved. So your recreational facilities went from $301,500 to $156,000. Your miscellaneous income went from $3,251,09 to $2,203,500. So that took your total general fund to $36,553,960. And then the total transfers in, which was shown on the sheet that was provided to you guys at our last budget retreat, went from $5,307,518 to $6,501,027. So that then balances, even though it's a number of moves, it balances you out to $43,054,987 in revenues and in expenditures.
Okay, that satisfy everybody? Got a second on Bob's motion?
I think Terry seconded.
Yeah,
Terry,
I
you-
second.
All in favor? Signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, likewise? Motion carried.
Now we need to go back and approve the second reading.
Okay. All right, we got a motion, yeah, we got a motion. All right, all in favor of this? Signify by raising the right hand and voting aye.
Aye.
Right, opposed likewise. All right, ayes carried.
Next is the second and final reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 14, Fire Prevention and Protection, to change the chapter title to Public Safety.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move second and final reading of ordinances A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Second.
I'm sorry, it's not A, starting with C, C, D,
Yeah,
E,
C.
and F.
Yeah, sorry.
Got a little carried away.
Excitement.
C, D, E, and F. Those are
All right,
the,
motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of this, signify by raising the right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Second and final reading of an ordinance authorize the mayor Town Administrator to execute a quitclaim deed to Mary Jo Swanson for all that certain piece, parcel, or lot of land, a .11 acre of land lying adjacent to South Laurel Street and TMS number 13706080009, shown as parcel A in square 24 on Detmold's plan in Somerville.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve that. Can we approve G and H at the same time as the same parcels going on each side of the canal?
Can we do that, Mr. GW? Can we do that?
If you would read H into the record also.
Okay.
H is second and final reading of an ordinance to authorize the mayor or town administrator to execute a quitclaim deed to Bruce C. Ball and Judy A. Nestor, subject to a life estate reserved unto Bernice G. Ball for the property herein described as all that certain piece, parcel, or lot of land, a .28 acre of land lying adjacent to South Laurel Street and TMS number 13706080003, shown as parcel B in square 24 on Detmold's plan in Somerville.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
Got a motion. I'll second it.
A motion second on G and H. Any discussion? Everybody know what we're talking about? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13600000117, located at 123 Harvest Way, approximately 4.97 acres, and owned by William H. and Laura Ashley White from PUD Planned Development District to GR2 General Residential.
Mr. Mayor, I move second and final reading of the ordinance.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to authorize and establish the Somerville Open for Business program to encourage economic development and private investment in the town of Somerville, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that this item and the following item, item K, be set for a vote, postpone the vote and set it for a vote for the second and final reading for the July meeting.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
We discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
What's the reasoning? Is there a, my reason for second is that it's pretty lengthy, and a lot of substantial changes made in both these ordinances since the last version we got, and we only received the proposed amendments for the second reading yesterday. So I think we need more time to read it. Thank you. You're welcome.
I think this is a good ordinance. I've read over it, and I think that by the time we get it back at the next meeting, we'll pass it. Everybody needs to take a good look at it. If you want to make any changes in it, get back with Michael or Rebecca. And I really think it's going to be a good ordinance for us and a way for us to move forward. And it just might need a little tightening up if somebody's got some questions on it. Get with Michael, and it's not something that we got to get past right away, but it's something that we certainly need to look at. And anyway, it won't hurt us to wait another month or two, another month anyway, to move forward with it. So.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make a comment. I do want to say that the changes that were made were in direct correlation to the concerns that were brought up at the last council meeting. So please, review them and let us know what your concerns are. And you're welcome to, Mr. Parker, myself, and Michael have reviewed them and looked at them and feel that these address the concerns that council had. So feel free to get with us and let us know if you'd like us to change anything else for the next meeting.
votes.
Right, and what we need to do, Rebecca, I think is, let's get this stuff out to council as quick as we can. Give them a chance to get it back to us as quick as we can. And some of the council people I've talked to said that they felt like they got it today. And they didn't have any chance to look at it. So, we can do that, I'm sure. And, get it back before the next meeting, special meeting, whatever we have, get it back on the program. So anyway, so Bill, what was your motion, or who had the motion that we put it off until the next meeting?
Bill made the motion to postpone.
Yeah.
Bill, you had the motion, okay. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Those opposed likewise? Okay. We'll put it off to the next meeting.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex Dorchester County TMS number 13600000105, located at 908 Central Avenue and totaling approximately 1 acre. It's currently zoned CG General Commercial in Dorchester County and will be zoned GB General Business annexed into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. And this is in Council District 1.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this. I drove up and looked at this property. I think this is a real good fit to bring it into the town as business because it's just that 1 acre, and right now it's pretty much not very attractive. So hopefully we'll get somebody to bring it into town and build something beautiful there.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion, a second. All in favor of this signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
First reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13706110002, located at 404 West Richardson Avenue, approximately 0.6 acres and owned by William A. and Francis L. Harbison, from GR2 General Residential to GR5 General Residential, Council District 2. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on May 17th, 2021. The Planning and Development Committee made a recommendation for denial at their meeting on June 7th, 2021.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve first reading of this ordinance. I look for a second for at least discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we carry this on to look at it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may be heard, after the committee meeting in which Councilman Jackson and I think were the two votes to recommend denial of the rezoning, I had members of the Planning Commission reach out to me, and I've listened to the contract purchaser tonight, and I'm still opposed to the rezoning, but I think I want to try to lay out my concerns. I think the Planning Commission looked at it this way, or at least some commissioners did. This is a very unique lot. So it's oversized for that area. The house is in a really unusual position. I know that Mr. Taylor believes, and some people believe that there used to be something on the corner. Some people say no, there never was. I don't have a real issue with there being two lots there. And I understand that's what the contract purchaser says is his present intention. He says most likely it'll be his own family residence. That's not what zoning property is about. Zoning is legislation. It would seem to me that the fastest, simplest, best way to affect what the applicant says that he wants would be a variance. I think this particular property is crying out for a variance to allow two lots on it. So I'm still opposed to rezoning it. As I read the ordinances, you can technically put 3 lots in it. You can put townhouses on it as a conditional use. I understand that there are a lot of things that would have to happen for either of those things to happen. but those would be decisions made by people completely out of our control. The BAR could approve tearing down that Sears house. The ZBA could grant variances that would allow, you could have other development down the block that could allow for townhouses. The two things that we have control of when it comes to density and development are annexations and rezonings. I would have thought that if the applicant went to the ZBA and wanted a variance that turn this into 2 lots instead of 1, given the shape of the lot, the size of the lot, and the location of the house, that it's just crying out for a variance. So, I mean, I may be in a minority, but I just don't see this as proper legislation to change the zoning in the historic district to take 1 lot conceivably, technically, possibly into 3 lots and possibly into townhouses.
And I guess I'm not in favor of it because one, we're suffering from zoning that was done and pulled one thing and done another in Oak Brook. Apparently it was approved before 2000. People don't understand that. They think I approved it. And now we're getting 420 homes between 2 neighborhoods that thought something else was going to go that would be commercial. And just like Bill said, we have to make a decision on anything that could be done on that property. And as far as protecting the historic area, Laura was the border between downtown and residential areas. And this is the first toe in the door, if we approve it. And what do we do when people on down the street want the same thing? Will we be accused of spot zoning? I mean, the lot right beside it looks to be bigger than it is. So I'm just not in favor of pushing higher density further into residential areas.
Mr. McIntosh, could you further enlighten me on how your idea of a variance or the suggestion of a variance is intriguing to me? Can we have some discussion from either Corporation Counsel or others as to how that can be achieved? Can it be achieved?
Well, it's not a decision we can make. I mean, it's a quasi judicial body, our Board of Zoning Appeals, that would hear the petition for a variance. I would have thought that, I'm not a planner, but that to me would have been the fastest, simplest way to achieve what the contract purchaser says he wants to achieve, is 2 lots on an unusual piece of property where the existing house is in the very back of the property with 2 entrances to 2 different streets. It would be the decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals. It would not be our decision. But I don't give free legal advice, but if it had been my...
No, but I mean, can we send it back with a recommendation to planning and zoning to...
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a quick question? So the property is zoned 0.6 acres and it's in GR2, which I'm looking at Jesse, that means the minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet.
That's correct. So technically, each lot would need a variance because both of them would be under the size. It's not huge for GR2. GR2 is basically a half acre typically. So 0.6 is only about a 1/10 over a normal lot size for GR2.
Do we know what 0.6, and I'm asking a stupid, what is the square footage of the 0.6? And I didn't bring my packet from Monday because I didn't
Don't
think
have the full packet
Yeah.
with me, but
26,385 feet.
so, I mean, it's only 6,000 something over the minimum lot size. So for GR2. So, I mean, it's not a huge lot for GR2. So in order to get a variance, both lots would need a variance.
a variance from 20.
Or one lot would need a very significant variance from the
So
20,000 square
if you
foot.
did 2 lots that were equal, you would need a variance from 20,000 square feet down to,
What the person under a contract was proposing, one lot would need, approximately a 5,000 square foot variance, and the other one would need approximately 9,000 square foot variance.
so you'd be asking for a variance for 9,000 square feet almost. So to have 2 lots that were basically, if you did them equally 13,000 square feet and the minimum lot size in GR2 is 20,000 square feet.
That's correct. The other option is to do two variances to have another house on an unsubdivided property with the accessory dwelling unit in front of the primary structure.
That wouldn't allow them to
And
then
this was
sell.
all discussed with the applicant, the options that were available. This rezoning was the one that appeared to be the cleanest because of the significant variance that would be required to subdivide with the GR2 zoning. So that was and also the fact that a variance is supposed to meet the 4 criteria for a hardship, and economics is not supposed to come into play with that.
Thanks. Sorry, my math is fuzzy.
Let me ask a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The administrators and Jesse. I was listening to the comments of all the council members so far. How is this variance, if we grant this variance, how is this good for the historic district?
We can't grant a variance. We can't grant a variance. All we can do is change the zoning map. A variance would be granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right. But if we do that, how is that good for the historic district?
So, Mr. Brown, I don't think it's for staff to say what would be good for the historic or not. That's why council gets to vote on it and decide whether it's a good for it or not. We can tell you how the math works. We can tell you what all the options are, but ultimately it's your decision whether it's rezoned or not. And if they go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for two variances, then that's up to the BZA to determine whether it works or doesn't work. So,
And I'm not against 2 houses being there. I'm against the zoning change. And if the Board of Zoning Appeals approves it, then that's fine. But I don't want to open the door for further development beyond into what is now a historic residential area. And I mean, we've had plenty of people in here over the last years fighting to protect that area. And from downtown encroachment into it. And this is the first step.
And to be clear, I think that under the current zoning, a second house can be built. And I think they might need a variance if they wanted to build.
it would have to keep the same ownership. You couldn't subdivide it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not about 2 houses. It's about the ability to sell a lot that doesn't exist now. So just be clear about that. But right now, a primary residence could be built in front of the Sears house. It would have to be 4,000 square feet. If you didn't want to build something that big, I would hope, be able to get a variance. But again, that's not our decision to build something less than 4,000 square feet. This is about the ability to turn one lot into 2.
And change
And
G2 to G5.
which could technically turn one lot into 3. I know it's unlikely, but the decisions as to whether one lot turned it, after we rezone it, the decisions as to whether one lot becomes 3 are not ours to make.
If I'm Bill, answer this for me. If right now we got one lot,
Correct.
so I got to deal back with R1 because I ain't never got used to this UDO.
I tried to change it back, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know. And I'm on your side on that. R1 was, half acre.
Yep.
So we got, so what they're requesting to do is split that, right?
To change the zoning essentially to what we used to call R2, but
Right,
we now
right.
call GR3.
Right. So that makes a big difference.
GR5, I mean.
Yeah, that
GR5.
that makes a big difference.
And
So, I'm very partial to the old part of Somerville, about splitting lots. If we, I'm like Bob, I don't think we ought to split lots to start with. When we go, what's in the old part of Somerville ought to stay the old part of Somerville. we split lots, you know, where my lot is, you know, it was already split. I got an acre, the front of my lot was a half acre. It was already like that. So I can't understand the stuff that y'all are talking about, how it could end up being 3 lots and all that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna vote no, how it could end up being 3 lots. I mean, if it could be 2 lots, you know, that's fine. But if somehow or another later on, and I talked to Terry about it, if it could be 3 lots, I'm against that totally. I mean, you know, if you know, I'm very familiar with that corner property. It's been that way all my life. I was born and raised on Laurel Street. You know, that property's been like that all my life. If we could just leave it like it is, that'd be fine with me. You know, I don't mind voting no. I'm like Bob says, you know, the downtown's encroaching on the residential area anyway. So if you know, as far as I'm concerned, we ought to leave it alone. I don't think town council ought to get involved in what we're doing right now, and that's getting involved in residential property in the old part of town. We ought to leave it alone. And if the UDO is protecting that, then I'm fine with that. You know, if it's not protecting that, I'm not fine with that. You know, but I don't even think we ought to be dealing with this personally. You know, if that property is like it is right now, we ought to leave it like it is.
Well,
Can I ask you a question? Would a duplex be able to be put on that property if it was split? Would a duplex be able to be put on that property if it was split as a G5?
No, it only allows single-family detached.
So I'm sorry, so it only allows single-family detached, as in townhomes would not be allowed on the property.
Townhomes, if it was zoned GR5, townhomes are only allowed if it takes up the entire block face.
so that was not your original answer. Townhouses are a conditional use for GR5 zoning, correct?
Yes,
And the condition is that it has to be the entire block face of townhouses. You can't have townhouses interspersed
correct.
among
So that is
single-family detached houses.
correct.
So how many more properties on Richardson would have to be bought by a developer to turn that entire block into townhouses?
At this point in time, 1.
Okay.
But the BAR would also have to approve to
But that's
demolish
not-
2 historic homes.
But that's out of our control.
There's a motion to approve in a second,
Correct.
so you would need to vote on that, and if it carries or fails, then we'll see what happens next.
Okay, all right. We got a motion to approve. All in favor, signify by raising their hand and voting aye.
I will vote for the first reading. This is simply the first reading.
Okay, so all those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion failed.
First reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 6, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Division 1, by adding a new section to be titled Section 6-47, Unfit Dwellings.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by holding up your hand.
Aye.
Voting aye. And likewise, you can vote no. Motion carried.
Resolution to adopt the 2021 Dorchester County Intergovernmental Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of this, signify by holding up your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote no. Ayes carried.
Discussion of Central Avenue Sidewalk Project.
I'll go ahead and start the discussion. As Russ was telling us on Monday, this would be a, can you hear me? Can you hear me out there? Oh. This would be a 3-part, correct me if I'm wrong, phase. And we would first start with the first part, which starts at West Carolina and goes up to Parsons Road. And there was talk about in the future widening Central, and perhaps we shouldn't put a sidewalk in because part of it, or maybe all of it, would have to be torn up and have to be redone. But as I recollect, you said phase 1, there's no talk about widening that part of Central, correct?
And Ms. Kim, in the packets, I believe Beth put in there, the only thing I could find which shows what would the proposed project that the county had for widening Central Avenue, and it shows the widening beginning at Parsons and going out. So there's nothing that, and obviously there's no funding for any of this, but there's no even thought process for widening from Parsons in. There's no county idea of
No
that,
one has
and no
identified
town
it
idea.
as a project. DOT has identified it, county nor the towns identified between Parsons and the town as a potential project. So putting the sidewalk out to Parsons is a relatively safe option, as to not be destroyed in the future. But if it is, for some reason, whoever does it will have to build a sidewalk back to replace what's there.
It is all from Carolina, Mr. Cornett, to Parsons. Is all of that in town?
I believe, yes, sir, it is.
I think we got a map that showed a few parcels not in the town.
I was on my phone, so I was having a little difficulty telling what part was there.
The vast majority of that on both sides of the road are in town, but as you know, we're famous for donut holes, and there are a few. I somewhat seriously thought maybe we should go ahead and permit an engineer for building the entire sidewalk from Carolina to Parsons, but just every time we got to a lot that wasn't in the town limits, just don't put the cement down.
And I agree with that. They have a choice. They can annex in, or the county can pay for it.
Yeah, so in the process of this, we would
I'm
need,
100% behind that. I got it right here in front of me. You know, we looking at 448 feet in one place, 200 and
Microphone,
2
Mr.
feet.
Mayor.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. You know, we looking at, I asked Russ this the other night because I knew he wouldn't have it, but, you know, we 448 feet of sidewalk, 202 feet sidewalk, 99 feet of sidewalk, 197 feet, these are rough numbers, 108 feet, just to get us out to Parsons Road. And a little bit more than that. These are just rough figures that I got somebody to get for me. And we don't need to build these sidewalks for the county. And this, you know, because for what sidewalks cost a foot. cost a foot. So if these people don't want to come into town, just like Bill just said, or Bob just said, we don't need to put these sidewalks in front of their places.
I think a lot of our residents, well, all of our residents pay county taxes.
They do.
The people that are not paying city taxes, and there's a lot of duplicate services that we do that the county does not provide outside, and when it comes to fire and police, we provide for them. So for these people just not to come into town because there might be a small increase in taxes for an addition of services, I don't understand why we would put sidewalks on the 10 for their property.
Yeah, it's almost 1,000 feet. And what would that cost us?
I don't know offhand, Mayor, but I can say one thing.
Well, you know what it costs a foot to put sidewalks in, don't you?
Well, it
Huh?
has to do with drainage. There's a lot of variables that go into building a sidewalk. It's not just the sidewalk itself. There's drainage associated with it, and
Yeah.
depending on where it is and what's going on at that location, it would depend.
Well, I mean, I know that you got a round figure you use for you putting in sidewalks.
Let's say $20 a foot. I mean,
How much?
$20 a foot. Don't hold me to that. though.
$20 a foot.
Yeah,
Okay, well, $20 a foot times 1,000 is how much?
about $20,000.
Yeah. Okay, so we paying that for people that live outside the city limits. You know, I don't want to do that. I'm sorry, but I don't want to do that. And that's what this whole thing about Central Avenue sidewalk, it's not that I've been against it, but I don't want to do it to start with because you're all saying you don't know when they're going to widen the road. You're all saying they ain't going to widen the road forever. I'm saying they will. But I'm saying that I don't want to put the sidewalk in for people that don't live in the city limits. And we got approximately 1,000 feet. So, 1,000 feet, you just said what that's going to cost or what you think it's going to cost. And I can tell you what, based on I'm not going to say that, based on what we think it costs per foot for anything, we don't know what it's going to cost. But anyway, we can go along there and put sidewalks in for a while, then we won't put in for a while, and that's gonna be a hell of a looking thing out there on Central Avenue.
Yes, sir. I can tell you the process to do this. We need to for building a sidewalk, we would have to build a sidewalk in the DOT right away. And if we submit to them plans that show a broken up, unconnected sidewalk, it's highly unlikely they will permit it. So if we approach it that way, it will not get permitted.
Mr. Mayor, maybe there's first off, I thought in our previous discussion, for which I was told I was absolutely wrong, which I still believe I'm absolutely right, that in a prior meeting, we had decided that we were not going to build a sidewalk. So whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong really makes no difference. What I would suggest is that if we can get all of the property owners that are not in the town of Somerville to come into the town of Somerville, that we consider building this sidewalk to Parsons Road. If they do not, we do not build this sidewalk at all.
Well, clearly then we would not be building the sidewalk.
Yeah, and I agree 100%.
And
that's okay.
We got a sidewalk we just talked about building the other night, on Carolina Avenue, where we know, I know that Aaron's talking about, he's got a lot of people walking on Central Avenue. And we all know that. But you can't have people walking on the sidewalk parkway and not walking on the sidewalk parkway. But we don't owe the people in Dorchester County nothing. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I've got my family living in Dorchester County, doesn't live in the town of Somerville. But they don't pay taxes here. We got to look up our people that pay taxes in Somerville. And I agree with you, Mr. Jenkins, that, if we can't get everybody on board to do this sidewalk, we have worked and heard about this sidewalk for a year and a half. And if we can't all get together on it, then we ought to wash it and start on something else.
So,
Is it?
Mr. Mayor, if you don't, real quick, I just want to say, so in 2018, that council approved staff moving forward and approved the funding for it. If this council would, would not like for staff to move forward, then please just vote for us not to move forward. I think this is just the
Right.
staff has a task.
I'm making a motion that if we cannot get all of the Dorchester County properties to come into the town of Somerville, if they will, we build it. If they don't, we won't.
I just, I'll second for discussion purposes. I just barely heard, Mr. Mayor, that's just not gonna work. I mean, what time period would we have to talk to these multiple property owners? It's just inconceivable that every single donut hole along between Carolina and Parsons is gonna come into the town. It's not gonna happen. So let's just, if Mr. Parker says it's appropriate to vote, the discussion, the item on the agenda says a discussion. If it's appropriate to vote to undo the vote of council of 2018, let's just vote up or down on the sidewalk.
I guess this discussion, and Rebecca, you weren't here, so.
One suggestion.
No, right?
Yeah.
Into,
Let me say
No,
something.
Ricky?
Let me say something, please. This is sidewalk.
excuse me, Eric, if we're gonna interrupt, let it be for us, because I'm speaking.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
One suggestion, maybe we annex the right of way to perform services, then the right of way of Central Avenue would actually be in town limits, and that's where the sidewalk would be. I know the adjacent properties, all adjacent properties may not be in the town, but the right of way itself, the sidewalk actually lies, would actually be in town limits.
And to that point, it's
Well,
not.
I think
it-
that's next.
I was
Yeah,
next.
go ahead.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, y'all. Hold, let Russ answer the question.
Okay.
Okay.
I think aside from that, one, I still don't agree with putting sidewalks in front of county property. It's essentially the same thing. And two, when we made that decision in 2018, we were given a totally different financial outlook for the town. We were gonna build the road, we could have money for Maple, we were looking at doing Cedar Street. And with Rebecca's good work, although unfortunate, we found out we did not have that money. And I believe that is the meeting in which Terry remembers, and I seem to remember that we decided, let's drop sidewalks and let's get the roads for traffic done. And when all that's done, then we can look at moving forward. And that would definitely give enough time for people to get annexed into town, because that's gonna be 3 or 4 years.
I think that did happen, but there was never a motion, a second, or a vote. So all I'm asking for is a motion, a second, or a vote to kill the sidewalk or not kill the sidewalk.
I make that motion. If it's allowed.
Okay, we got a motion to kill the sidewalk. Terry? Oh,
The only thing that concerns me, Mr. Mayor, is how that action came about, whether it was just a motion and a vote, or whether it was an ordinance. If it was done by an ordinance, I just don't remember. We'll have to look and see. So, if it wasn't done by an ordinance, it would be fine to make a motion.
And while you're looking for that, let me just ask one more question. Looking at the donut holes, I guess we're saying, are those predominantly businesses? Because I see a couple of those are businesses. Are they predominantly residents?
Mr. Mayor, so in April of 2019, it was a discussion point in the Public Works, and they picked which company, the consulting firm that was going to do the sidewalks. And then in the Finance Committee on the same April 2018 meeting, there was an approval for $259,116 for said consulting firm to engineer, design, and permit the Central Avenue sidewalk project. So I don't think, I believe it was a Finance Committee item, Mr. Parker.
Approval of purchase order.
Yeah.
I just found out, Jesse told me that there's 7 properties along there that are not in town. They are primarily businesses.
It's not a test, but I mean,
Okay, wait, wait,
seven
wait
out
a
of how
minute, I
many?
want her to read that again. Read
Okay.
that again, please.
All right, so in April 2019, the Public Works Committee went through and reviewed the items and reviewed the applicants and approved J. Bragg Consulting Incorporated to actually design, permit the sidewalk. And then during the same meeting in the Finance Committee, Ms. Garden Smith made a motion and was seconded by Mr. McIntosh to authorize the town administrator to enter into a professional services contract with J. Bragg Consulting Incorporated for the engineering, design, and permitting for the Central Avenue sidewalk project.
So it's definitely not an ordinance because finance committee can't.
Okay, for how much money?
It was $259,116 for the design of the entire, if I'm correct, for the entire sidewalk project. That would include this phase 1.
Okay, stop right there. Remember that number.
Mhm.
Okay, Russ, give me that number you gave us Monday night.
I gave you, I think I guessed about $300,000 for design.
So it was.
I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah, it was 259,116.
How much?
I thought that was for design and build.
It says design and permitting.
Oh, design.
One and permitting, and how
Yeah.
much, how much was the money the other night?
His estimate, he said
It
was
was
around.
the estimate. I don't remember the exact day. I think I told you $300,000 for design.
Okay,
and permitting.
somebody keep numbers, somebody keep records of these damn numbers we going through. Because that's what I care about. You know, so how much?
It was $260,000 in 2019. It's $300,000 in 2021.
No,
Okay.
No, there's
Right.
no, there's been no change. He
There's
was just
been-
given an estimate, didn't have the actual numbers, and it rounded up to 300. He didn't
yeah,
know
I
that.
wasn't aware we were going to go in that discussion on the night, so I didn't bring those numbers with me to be prepared for that discussion. I think I was asked how much the design contract was for. I don't remember exactly. I guess $300,000 was $260,000. I was off by
Okay.
$40,000 on an off-the-cuff guess.
Okay.
And I just think we've got roads and sidewalks we gotta do on what we have going to get traffic and people moving around town. And it's approximately 300,000 just to plan it, not to build it. So, I think we look at paying for what we got going now.
You have a purchase order that's in a contract that's been approved, so we would have to look at how we stop that contract and if there are any damages or anything for stopping it and how much would.
I talked to the consultant and told them what was tonight's agenda item, and if they want to stop, if we want to stop the contract, they will want to stop working on it and bill us out any outstanding work now.
How much have we already spent? Do you
I
know?
don't recall.
Yeah.
Any idea how much?
So I would not.
I'm not going to guess. I don't get in trouble again.
Don't guess, don't guess.
I mean,
Give-
I
give me
think that's
real numbers.
worth knowing before we
Yeah.
take a vote. If we entered a contract in 2018 to spend $260,000 to plan, engineer, and permit a sidewalk, if we pay more than 50% on it, I mean, I can't get even a guess.
So I can tell you that the first phase is 99% complete. It's ready to go to permitting. Second phase is 80% designed. Third phase is probably 25-30% complete, conceptual design. So I would guess based on those statuses that we are more than halfway into this, drawing from this contract.
I'd like to make a motion that we move this to next month so we can clear our head on numbers. Russ can
I'll
find
second.
out from them what we owe them and then move on from there.
Could we, I hate to, I think you got a second on it, so if we're discussing, how much more expense are we gonna incur if we don't stop them for another month?
I can have them stop work for now, hold it, any more work until we make a decision.
Well, I just wanted to say this too, Mr. Mayor. I think the conception, when we conceived the idea of the sidewalks, we were trying to make our residents in that particular area of Central Avenue make their lives safe by providing the safety of sidewalks, right? So now we have a number of our citizens that need sidewalks, and we're about to throw the whole thing out because of a few people that are not in the city limits. That's the only point I wanted to make. And I agree with you. We should not be building sidewalks for people who are not in the city limits. But I think I'm trying to look at the big picture here. And we've already spent some money talking about getting these residents sidewalks. And now we're gonna lose that money, just give it up? Because how many pieces of parcels in the city? We talking about 1,000 feet, $20,000, $30,000 versus 269,000 to give our citizens a better quality of life? You guys figure it out, let me know.
Well, Aaron, I agree with you 100%, but I've been hearing about this Central Avenue sidewalk since I got elected and took office. And we ain't got no sidewalk yet. All we've heard about is the sidewalk. I don't know how much money we spent, because Russ ain't been able to tell me. So Rebecca came on right after I came on. She don't know. I mean, so we can keep right on spending money, and your constituents and my constituents ain't got no sidewalk. So I'm agreeing with Bob and Bill and Terry and all our councilmen. It won't hurt to stop. Like Bob said, let's bring it to a halt and let's see where we are. And it has nothing to do with the people outside the city limits. It does, because we need them to pay their part, or like Russ said, what can we do? Condemn this property and bring it into the town, Russ, or what? How do we get it into the town to part this? Huh?
Or we
Yeah.
annex the right of way.
Yeah, we annex the right of way and we get it into town, and it's part of the town. I have no objection to that, by the way. But anyway, so what's the motion?
Just one clarification. Mr. Cornett said, I believe, that phase one, which is to Parsons Road, I believe, is 100% done.
99%
Okay,
designed, yes.
so there's no more money to spend on that, relatively speaking, another $50. The rest of it, I don't see us ever doing in a lifetime. Therefore, I don't see why we would spend another dime on anything, on the engineering.
And I agree, and that's why that's part of my.
Except to finish phase one in case we do that.
Exactly. That's part of my motion. Let's wait till next month, find out what we owe the company if we only complete phase one now. And then decide from there. I agree with you. Especially with the amount of county property further out, I don't see that ever come to being unless DOT expands the road.
And just for clarification, looking at this map, it looks like phase one, the first third of it is all within town limits. So the first one doesn't even come until Flood Street, where it's the one that's in the county. So at least a third of this area is all residents.
Is there a second to?
Okay, so what's the motion?
The motion is we delay a decision on this till next month so we can see how much money we already owe and what it will cost us to complete and permit phase one.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, there are 2 seconds to that, but that's okay.
Okay, all in favor signify by raising your hand and voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carried. Okay. Moving down some.
Next is recommendations from the State ATAX Advisory Committee for 2021 funding.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a recommendation that we take these one at a time.
I'll second that.
in the agenda packet. So was that a motion or was there a motion or?
All right, it's up to you.
Motion.
Second,
I seconded it. It's a motion and a second.
Okay,
All right, so there's a
Okay,
motion and second.
all in favor, signify by raising your hand.
aye.
Aye, opposed likewise. Ayes carried.
Now you guys are gonna vote on one-on-one, one by one?
We're going down one-on-one.
Mr. Mayor, in regard to Community Resource Center, the amount budgeted was, the amount requested was $25,000. The amount recommended by the committee is $21,500. Out of the three funds that we use for charitable contributions for tourism, hospitality, local accommodations tax, and state accommodations tax, probably the state accommodations tax money is the most restricted. It has to be tied to tourism by statute. No matter what good works that organization is doing, if they're not bringing tourists in, then they're not fulfilling the legal requirement that it be tourism expenses. In regard to the Community Resource Center, in 2017, they applied for $15,000 for the Kwanzaa event. And they stated they expected to have 25 tourists to attend that event. And the reporting they had to file from the previous year said that at the 2016 event, there were 15 tourists. Now, that's 2017. This year, they're saying they expect 1,000 tourists. And I'm at a loss to see how you jump from 25, anticipating by their own figures 25 for 2017, and the actual amount of 15 tourists in 2016. If you take them at the high point, the 25 tourists that they expected to get in 2017, if they're funded at $21,500, we're paying $860 per tourist. And we're obviously not getting a bang for our buck on that. We have more times than not turned down the request from this organization for the same reasons that I just explained. So I would move that we not fund the Community Resource Center because they have not had a track record of showing that they're attracting tourists for that event. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the organization. I'm not saying they don't do good work. It's just the specific criteria that have to be met, and they have not met it.
And back when they first started, I actually met with them when we turned them down the first time and discussed, there was 3 or 4 women there and the executive director, that if they made the event and this woman, those other people, whomever it is, it doesn't matter at this point, created an event staff and asked for the money in their own, that would be totally different than funding an organization. And they chose not to do it. And at that time also went on and checked the 501c status. And there's some holes in it and some non-filings. I think they filed their taxes for 0 1 year and haven't filed anything that I could find after that. And I mean, there's just no way that I can put taxpayer money to an organization that doesn't have good books.
In 2018, they said they had 0 income and made 0 contributions. And I did not see anything after 2008.
And that's the IRS Form 990 that all nonprofits have to file on an annual basis?
That's the form the Secretary of State had.
Okay. So has anybody checked that whether they filed federally?
I don't know unless it's department.
When I saw this one, Mr. Taylor.
And that's what I found when I went to talk to them back in probably 2009.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question?
Yes, yes,
Ms. Meservy, as part of the application process, did they have to put their nonprofit status or tax identification number or anything of that nature? Okay, so their application shows that they, or at least says that they are currently.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everyone, that's part of the application process.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to say, we're showing in our records here that they did not apply in 2019. They didn't apply in 2020. In 2018, they applied for $5,000. And then 3 years later, they're applying for 25. Now, of course, I didn't see their application, but I'm just wondering why is there such a big difference in what they were asking for when also their numbers were they turned out a lot lower than what they expected. So what are they doing different this time that they're expecting so many more people and they need much more money?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say one other thing. Mr. Pratt is here, who is the chairman of the committee. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask him, sorry, Robert, to put you on the spot, but sorry, just so you guys know that.
No, I think, and that was part of my argument back in 2018, and that was why I went and personally met with them to try to help them to file correctly, tell them what was required to file with the state in 990s and salaries. And it seemed like they kind of work on a cash flow basis. And we gave them, or we were going to give them $2,500 and 25 people came. That's $100 a person. If we just put out a media blip, that we'll give $50 to everybody that comes in here with a zip code from 50 miles away, we'll get almost all of them here by noon. So I don't think that it's good use of the money.
Robert, you got anything you'd like to say? Come on up front, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been on this committee a while, and we have seen the same organization come forward and ask for funds. And if I'm not mistaken, last year they didn't apply, and I don't know that they applied the year before. I know their first couple of events did not produce numbers, and I think the committee felt like this was a lean year. These people were trying to have a Kwanzaa festival again. And maybe, it's been a couple of years since they've done something. We've had COVID, and we're going to give them a shot at trying it again. The first recommendation was to give them 15,000. And then we talked about it a little more. And if you notice on that list, we're offering 136,125 this year. We typically give out much, much more than that, twice as much as that. So we were hoping they could get their festival going. This is kind of giving them a restart. However, we serve at your pleasure. If you think that this is not a good thing, good use of money, then certainly we understand. I think Ms. Powell might be here still. Cynthia's here, and she's on the committee. And if I missed something on that, Cynthia? Or?
Good evening. One of the things we did notice, the Alston Heritage Foundation was tied to that particular affair. And we know that they do come in from various states in order to attend the Alston Heritage. And so we figured this year we would probably have a greater number to attend because of the lockdown and people just wanting to be on the move. And so we thought, okay, we will give them another opportunity. And that's why we went with it. We went with whatever was in the application. We didn't have the opportunity to question anyone or do any research. But based on that information, and I know something about the Alston Heritage Foundation, that's why we agreed to go ahead.
Yeah, it was, that's the way the committee voted, and we understand that, the council has every right to vet it a little further than probably we did, and whatever you decide, I'm certain will be where we go.
And I agree, and ma'am, I agree with you. The Austin Foundation is great. And I do believe in giving second chances. And that's why I approached the Community Resource Center after the first time they applied and told them, if you do this, you may very well get your money, you will get my vote. They chose not to do that and then come back with $25,000. That's, in my mind, just not. I know other organizations that have brought nearly 1,000 people in with participants from all over the Tri-County area, and they only asked for 6,000. And they had like 50 people participate, booths and stuff of everything, all the history and gala and all that around the whole Low Country. So I just can't do that.
I would just like to say, we as a committee, we aren't privy to all of the background. We can only go on what we have in front of us.
Yep.
And anything that we would privately know about these situations. And so that is the basis upon which we made our recommendation.
And I understand and I thank you, and I know it's not an easy job. And sitting here, we'd like to say we always have the facts. We always don't. But thank you for what you do.
Can I say something? I'm not on the committee, but it's a 7-day festival. It's not 1 day, 7 days. I think they were bringing in bands for each day, so it's 7 days, it's not 1 day.
I'm sorry. If I misled you.
Yeah, we have some information here about back in the years 2015 and 16 of actually how many people did come in that were tourists. But then after that, well, after the year 2017, we don't have the numbers. We just have they expected, 75 tourists or a total of attendance of 300. And so it's really hard to judge. I am not in disagreement of giving this committee some money. I am in disagreement of giving them that amount that the committee had recommended.
And to my recollection, when we funded them some years and we've not funded them other years, but when this particular event, and it may have been a smaller event, may have been a planned smaller event, but when this particular Kwanzaa event was first kind of pitched to us, there was some on council that just did not want to fund it, didn't feel comfortable funding it at all. But the funding that was allocated eventually was based on the idea, well, they're a new organization, it's startup, it's not a bad idea. In fact, it's a good idea. We'll fund an amount, and we have the amounts. I don't have them in front of me, but I don't believe we've ever funded more than 5,000 in a year. I could be wrong. It might have been 2,500. But the idea was to build a track record of attracting tourists to Somerville. And the numbers that we have just suggest that the smaller expenditures that we made, whether it was 2,500 or 5,000, the track record was a dozen or so tourists came in. And so I support the idea at a minimum of dramatically reducing the amount or just simply not funding it. Either one of them would be fine with me.
And publicly, I will offer my services to talk to them if they want to talk to about how to get their books moving and straight. I've worked a lot with nonprofits inside now, and that's a good bit of that information on how to make it work. But it does take accounting, and accounting that you can back up and be audited for. And with all these things, I 2 years back recommended that we do every once in a while audits in nonprofits. So that's, I think you pick 2 or 3 every time and have them audited.
Motion and second.
I don't think we have a second.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion. What's the motion?
The motion was not to fund them this year.
Motion not to fund them anything?
That's right.
If I could, I'd like to make another motion I'm not in disagreement of not funding them completely. They have brought in 2015, 2016, and 17, 18. They did bring in some people, and I look at what we've given them in the past, and actually the only time we gave them money was in the year 2016. We gave them 7,666. And I'm gonna say my motion, they brought in, hold on, 50 persons total per night and 20 to 25 tourists per night. So my,
Was that what year was that?
that was in 2016.
They said, and I'm looking at the 2017 report. They reported that they had 175 total in attendance and 15 tourists at their 2016 event. The numbers were tracked via a visitor sign-in sheet. So that their own figures show 15 tourists.
$7,500 for 50 to attract 15 tourists.
Well, that particular year, we didn't give them any money, but I understand.
I thought in 16 we did.
2016, but that was 2017. They brought in 15 tourists.
No, in 2017, they reported that they had 15 tourists at the prior event in 2016.
Oh, you're right.
And
I'm sorry.
And they were
Yes.
funded.
You're right.
To the extent of $7,666 for
And
15.
And that's
So-
just statewide ATAX. And I don't know the years, but I know that there have been years, I believe I know that there have been years that we as a council have approved H-tax funding for this event as well, local hat tax funding. I'm almost positive one year our allocation was 2,500, one year might have been 5. I don't know if 2016 was one of those years or not, but it's conceivable that we actually funded that event to an amount more than $7,500 for 15 tourists.
And I guess my point to the whole thing, bottom line, is if any of that happened, it should be reported in their books with the state. We should be able to go online, pull up their 501c, and see all those donations and where the money came from and where it went. And there's been no filing. And the one year they filed, they put in a 0, which means they brought nothing in, nothing went out.
Let me say something, Mr. Mayor. The Kwanzaa Festival is a very important thing to the African-American community. And as the young lady just said, it's a 7-day event about doing good in the community. And some people consider it the African-American Christmas. This organization, the Community Resource Center, has had some problems in the past. There's no question about that. The first time that we funded them, I think they were asking for 5,000. We cut it down to 2,500. We never got the results as far as the numbers that are required, as some of the council members are bringing out. But I think it's important for us to try to be culturally sensitive to in our community. Why don't we look at this as possibly a second chance? And we can award them some money, or we can reduce the amount of money. But at the same time, we've got another year to look at them and see if they keep their books in order. If they bring in the tourists, bring people to Somerville. Now, Ms. Marchant said something interesting a while ago. She said that the Community Resource Center is tied in with the Alston Heritage Foundation. To give you a little bit of history, Alston High School was the black high school before integration. And there are many graduates from that school back during the segregation period, and they come to Somerville every year, probably 150, 200 people from various states throughout the nation. They stay in the hotels, and they spend money, and they're a good group of people. They've been self-sufficient over the years. I've encouraged them to apply for some of this type of money, the A-tax money, hospitality tax money. That most of these people are very successful, and so they feel that, this is something that they can handle. If in fact the Alston Heritage Foundation is associated with the Kwanzaa, then it gives me a much better feeling. I think initially when the Kwanzaa got started in Somerville, they had a difficult time getting it together and getting it going, and different people were involved. So given the mixed track record of the Community Resource Center and the need for some cultural activities related to the African-American community in Somerville, I will make a motion that we reduce the 2021 recommended amount to $15,000. And if I can get a second on that, then we'll try to move forward with that.
Just to clarify, Mr. Brown, you're moving to amend my motion.
Yeah.
Instead of 0 to 15.
Right, to move it to 15,000 and see if we can give them that and take a long look at them again when they come back in with the numbers for next year.
Yeah, I'll second Aaron's motion because I kind of believe what he said. You know, I think this is an organization that we need to, you know, when you look at this money we're giving away, it's not our money, you know, and as you go down this list, and if we spend, you know, as much time as we go spend on every organization that's asking money for here tonight, we'll be here until in the morning. As we spend it on this one. And I know we're not gonna do that, and that's not fair. You know, I think they're asking for 25, the committee's recommending 21, and Aaron's recommending 15, which I don't think is too much for what this organization does. You know, we got to open up our eyes sometimes and just look at what different organizations do. And we've got a committee that does this, and the committee, who I know is a honorable committee, who I got a lot of respect for.
Well, Mr. Mayor, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
You know, so I second Aaron's motion. And anyway, hopefully we can go on for them. Any more discussion, we open for it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I was actually going to make another motion. I am not going to now, but I was going to actually recommend a little bit lower than that. But I could vote for this 15,000, but we really need to see them keeping their records accurate. I mean, one of the things I'm reading here is in 1 year, their attendance sign in Ledger was misplaced by the volunteer staff. So they've got to know that we're serious. We need to see these numbers just like all these other groups, because I see some of these other groups, they're asking for less money, and they have been here every single year bringing in visitors. So this committee or this group really needs to show us what we need to see if we're going to vote for this.
Mr. Mayor, I'm probably not going to support any level of funding, but I'm still a little confused by the Austin Heritage Foundation. I don't understand the connection. I don't know the connection. I know what the Austin Heritage Foundation is. I don't know why they are not requesting funds unless they're not a 501c3, but I would be happy to be doing something there, but I'm not on the train.
We have funded requests from the Austin Heritage Foundation before around a reunion, and the whole idea is that, you know, a significant number of Austin graduates from the 60s, and it was a few years back, so there were probably some more graduates from the 50s and maybe even the 40s that were attending, and that they come to town and they stay in their hotels, and I don't think they ask for anything near this, but I'm positive we have funded the Austin Heritage Foundation for their reunions in the past, and I would support that again, but I don't see the tie from Alston High School to a Kwanzaa festival. I will, I didn't know what motions were going to be made. I'm not opposed, supposed to having some funding to give them really maybe a third or fourth crack at attracting tourists to a Kwanzaa festival, but the amount requested and the amount recommended just seemed extreme considering their past track record.
Any other discussion?
No, for me, it's totally legality in the county. I can't spend taxpayer money where they can't show me where it went. And I agree with that.
Okay. All right. We'll call for the question.
This is a motion to amend that that Mr. Brown made to approve $15,000.
Yeah.
That's a motion to amend Mr. Bailey's motion.
Right.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah. Motion to amend Mr. Bailey's motion. Keep it straight, Bill.
All right. Fine.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye. Is that what we're voting on? Okay. Just Aaron, aye. Okay. Now what am I voting on?
Nays.
Huh?
All those voting nay?
Yeah, and all opposed.
Nay.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to amend Mr. Bailey's motion again. And I would move to approve $2,500 for this event.
And I will second.
Okay. All in favor of this, signify by raising your hand and voting aye. I guess I'm voting aye on that. I don't- Bill, have we gotten straight on that?
So that was 3 to 4, right? 3, 4.
We hadn't said opposed yet.
Oh, opposed likewise.
Let's see if we can get this together. Could you mind doing this again, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. All right, we'll try it again. Rebecca, try to keep up with this.
The motion.
All in favor of this, signify by raising their hand, voting aye. Can I vote again?
And this is for the
I
2,500.
mean, I want them to get the money.
Is this to approve the $2,500?
This is to, this is to amend Mr. Bailey's motion
To $2,500?
to 2,500. Then we'll have to take a separate vote.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So how,
Okay.
This is the motion to amend Mr. Bailey's motion.
For $2,500. All in favor?
Am I voting right? I don't know. All right, opposed likewise.
Mr. Br-
Mr. Brown needed.
He knows.
I vote
So
nay. I vote nay on the 2,500.
Okay.
I think that's 5-2.
That's 3 to 4.
I thought it was 3-2. I'm not sure what it
So
is.
now the motion is the denial of funding. That's the motion on the table.
Yes.
I mean, we got another motion?
It's Mr. Bailey's motion.
Original motion.
All right, the motion is to deny all funds.
That's his motion. It's got a second.
Okay, we got a second.
He has a
All in
second.
favor of this, signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
nay.
Opposed?
You had 4. 3 to 4. All motions have failed 3 to 4, I think.
If somebody can keep up with that, I want them to let me know. You got that?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we move to the next organization.
Can we vote on all these things at one time?
No.
All right, then I would like somebody to make a motion that we put these off until the next meeting.
When, these funds are awarded when?
Well, I mean, we'll award them anytime we want to, but.
But some of these groups may
some of
need
these
their
things
money
take
earlier.
forever.
They're generally awarded in July.
Some of these events take place as early as September.
Carried.
But Beth, they're normally, every year we do it in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good, so we're actually.
That's when you give out the checks.
So we need to move forward.
We vote in June and cut the checks in July.
Okay, Bill, make a motion, we put it off to the next meeting.
My motion was to take up the next organization, the Dorchester Children's Advocacy Center.
I'll second
And I would,
Okay, go ahead.
all right, if we're taking up Dorchester Children's Advocacy Center, if I'm reading this correctly, they requested 15 and this committee has recommended 13. My motion would be that we fund their request fully and appropriate 15,000.
Second.
Okay, motion made that we give them the 15,000 and the second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor signify by raising the right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we follow the committee's recommendation and appropriate 5,000 for the Dorchester Paws 5K race.
I'll second that.
Okay. A motion made and seconded, we give the Dorchester Post 5,000. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed
Aye.
likewise. Discussion. Okay, motion carried.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the Flowertown players for what they originally requested at 12,880. This event is an event that they put on for veterans from wars from First World War to Second World War. They bring in people from all over the country. It's on video. There's performances, there's history. People speak to the time and places these things happened as acting characters. And I just think it does bring a lot of people in. They have it over, I think it's multiple times over 3 days. And I know my father-in-law was a bomber pilot over Germany during the Second World War, and he was in a wheelchair, but he found a way to stand up and salute. And that was all I needed to support this.
I'll second.
Motion seconded, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would just say that I'm going to abstain on this vote. I serve on the Flowertown Players Board and I will not be taking part in any of the discussions or voting.
Okay. All in favor signify by raising the right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carried. Mr. McIntosh abstaining.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Public Works Arts Center for the amount of $12,475.
I'll second. Oh, you got it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of this signify by raising the right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed likewise. Ayes carried.
I'll make a motion that we approve for the Somerville Dorchester Museum, the amount of $23,850.
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
I'll second that.
And just for the public, let them know we do own that building.
Kim, I made the motion.
Oh,
There was
okay.
already a second.
All right, we got a
I'll
motion.
second.
We got a motion
I'm the second
second.
one to motion that.
Motion seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would vote for that, but I think that, and I don't know whether this is the appropriate time to say this, but I think the museum board should give some serious consideration to working some kind of an affiliation out with the county museum. I don't think that the Dorchester County and the town of Somerville area is big enough to have two separate museums, and I would like to see them work together on this. And I'll vote for this amount of money, but I think the museum was having trouble raising money of their own, and I think they should again look to some form of affiliation with the Dorchester Museum.
I agree with you totally, Walter. I've been in discussions with them and up to the Kroger House and all, and I thoroughly agree. As far as everything would be better with the two of them joined as one. And back then, it was one single community.
Yeah. It seems to be sort of a turf war there now that's unfortunate.
Yeah, also, I'd like to say under discussion that, that we would turn it over to our administrator to research our contract with them, to make sure that they're in, agreement with our contract, that, because this thing says upgrading exhibits interior and exterior. You know, I don't know about anything interior, but I don't know what kind of exterior exhibits they have.
They have Sol Alexander Smoke Room, the gazebo out there.
Yeah. But, you know, the exterior of the building, they're supposed to, I think they're supposed to keep up the exterior of the building. So back if you would just kind of look into that, Mayor, and make sure that they're doing that. So anyway, any more discussion on that?
There is the lady in the back that may have some information.
I want somewhat out of order as far as all the terror groups go, but with the track has information, I believe one to share.
Just that, when it came to us as a committee, when they came to us at the committee, they said they had been in conversation with the new Dorchester Heritage Museum, and they had actually are in the process or are lending them some of their exhibits to display at the museum. So I know they're having conversations, and I think your thoughts of having them work together as one would be wonderful. Not sure what location that would be, but you know, that's a great idea. They also have a lot of new blood over there. There's been some old blood over there that's not there, I don't think. I think that's a positive thing for the museum. And I also think that they've got a new lady that's digitizing things for them and getting kind of into the 21st century. So it was a very positive presentation for us.
Thank you, Mr. Brad.
Thank you, Rob.
And Mr. Mayor, I would say that I've visited several times in the last couple of years, and they have done a lot of moving things around, adding exhibits, just changing things interiorly. They have done an excellent job, and if anybody else on council hasn't been over there lately, you really should go take a look at what they've done. They've got some azalea plants on the outside that are the original plants from the tea farm, and they've got verbiage there to talk about that. They've got an old pump, I think, on the outside, something out there. So they've really got some interesting things to take a look at.
Good, good, that's great. Okay, so we got a motion and a second on that. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve the committee's recommendations to fund $1,000 to the Juneteenth African American Tourist Guide that's being proposed.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any discussion on that? If not, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Okay, if not, ayes carry. Okay, where are we at now?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the committee's recommendation for the Somerville Community Orchestra's marketing of concerts. I think it says 35,000.
It does, and I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say, I have a little bit of trouble approving this amount of money because very little is done by the orchestra actually in the city limits. And we are, in a sense, paying to have our citizens go to North Charleston or other places to hear the concert. And I know we don't have a facility right here to actually do that, but I think Third Thursday and other events in town would be a great place to bring more awareness to the city that they are in town and participating.
Thanks, Bob. Any other discussion on that, y'all? Or if not, all in favor signify by raising the right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed likewise, ayes carry.
No.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the committee's recommendation for funding the Somerville Evening Rotary Club's Oktoberfest and golf tournament of $10,000.
Second.
Okay, have a motion, second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of this, signify by raising the right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve the committee's recommendation that we fund the Timrod Library's marketing and Azalea magazine. I think it says $3,100.
Mr. Mayor, and I am going to abstain on this. My wife is on the board, so I will not participate in the vote to approve or deny.
Okay. All right, any discussion on this? All right, all in favor?
I'll second.
Wait a minute. Oh, we got a second. All right. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, vote, saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the TMI production evening of Jazz in Hutchinson Square for the recommendation, $1,200.
I'll second that, only if we get to hear you play, Mr.
$1,200.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, but what is TMI Productions?
You have to ask Cindy or Robert Pratt.
Mr. Pratt?
They do events and things around that. They're not a private organization. They're not I don't believe they're a nonprofit. So we had that question, Beth, if you remember, whether, it was okay to give them money. But we felt like as a committee, if they bring in jazz into Somerville, wow, that is, I don't know that was really a disqualification for them. That would be wonderful to put jazz out here in the park. I hope y'all approve.
Are they profiting in any way off of this other than getting the name out, Robert?
I think TMI Productions, we do not think that's a nonprofit. That's not a
I mean,
501.
as far as this event,
Well, I don't know their numbers, but I mean, for $1,200, I don't know how many musicians you could hire for that. Not too many.
yeah,
I don't know if
just
we have
curious.
I mean, there's not, in Hutchinson Square, there's not a ticket, it's not a ticketed event. You don't
Right.
charge admission, so I don't know where their revenue, they may be a for-profit entity, but I don't see how they would make profit putting people in Hutchinson Square. I mean, I'm not paying, I'm going.
Yeah, I think it's worth it to spend $1,200 to bring a jazz group to Somerville. I think it's something that people
We
would
didn't know of
enjoy
any reason they
and
shouldn't
get something
receive
started doing
funding
with jazz.
to bring tourists in and people in, even though they may not be a 501(c)(3). Don't know of any rule that says that they have to have that. So maybe there's an answer here.
This came up.
Yes, sir.
Before with trolley cars, it's a privately owned company, and it applied for money. I don't think it gave it to them, but I checked with the, I think it's called TURC, it's the Tourism Oversight Committee, and they said a situation like this would be perfectly okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Mayor, I did want to, shameless plug, we actually have jazz at the Brown Community Park on Sunday.
And that's
At
with
that-
the same company.
No, the town is actually putting it on themselves.
So we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shameless
Okay.
plug, shameless plug, Saturday,
Good.
Sunday.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go back to Community Resource Center and make a motion that we approve funding the Community Resource Center at a level of $5,000.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
And so what is the total you're asking for now, Bill?
Well, my motion was 5,000, and since 15,000 failed 3-4 and 2,500 failed 3-4 with different people voting different ways, I thought I'd give one last shot at an affirmative vote, so I just came up with 5,000.
So the total you want to give them is 5,000?
Yes. I want to see if there's 4 votes.
Okay.
If there's not, I'm not making another motion.
I hope not. Okay. No more discussion on that. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah, we
A
have-
second?
yeah.
Sorry.
I thought, yeah, second.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Okay. Opposed likewise.
4-3. All right.
Okay.
Success.
All got our vote.
Mr. Mayor, before we leave the accommodations tax thing, I noticed that at least 3 of the nonprofits didn't spend the money that was given last year, I assume because of COVID, which is perfectly understandable. But I'm not so sure that they could keep that money and spend it on whatever they want to spend it on. It would appear to me if they don't spend it within a calendar year, it should go back to the town and go back into a pot of money and then be dispersed later. Because the money was given for a specific event that didn't take place. And I just throw that out. It just seems like that.
I don't have an answer to that question off the top of my head, but I'll have it for you.
Thank you.
Robert said I could address it. We're one of the nonprofits.
Robert's-
We're one of,
Mr. Chairman.
we're one of the nonprofits that did not spend all of our money, and that was filed in our report. And we didn't, it was for a mural, and we couldn't find the right people to do it, but we are, and it hasn't been spent for anything else. It's still in an account for that.
Hear you, hear you.
Are we good?
I don't know. We'll find out from Mr. Parker tomorrow.
You're good. You're good, Diane.
Now, Mr. Mayor, if I might, I would really like to thank the ATAX committee, Mr. Pratt and Cindy are here and all the members, because it's a tough job to deal with that issue of trying to decide who gets the money, because you can see how tough it was for council tonight. And I'm sure we didn't make everybody happy, but we tried.
There was one that y'all skipped. Sorry. The South Carolina Federation of National Active and Retired Federal Employees Conference.
I would move that we follow the committee's recommendation and not fund that.
Second.
What's that motion, Bill?
To follow the committee's recommendation and not fund it.
Okay, in a second. Okay, all in favor of that, signify by raising your right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.
Next, we have public comment. We have David Neal.
Okay, public comments, not related to the agenda.
Yes, my name is David Neal. I live at 1104 South Main Street, Somerville. I have 4 areas of safety concern that I'm very interested in hearing from you. Number 1, on Highway 17, the Amoco station, aware of. They built an existing island. I talked to Mr. Bailey about it. It is in the middle of that gas station. It impedes on any traffic coming in and out. It's a safety issue. And I just see it as a safety issue. I know the traffic's been down because of COVID, but I have seen trailers get jammed in there, and there's going to be a serious accident. Is there anything the town council can do?
We're here to receive comments tonight.
Receive?
Yes.
Well, I'm asking this on a question. And y'all been commenting on real estate all night. I just thought I'd ask. Second one, Sawmill Trail. My wife and I go to the Sawmill Trail 4 to 5 times a week. There's a great deal of, I would consider it criminal activity out there. And it needs to be monitored on a regular basis. We've seen homeless. We've seen a great deal of homeless and very little police presence. And I think that needs to be addressed by this council. That's a safety issue. A lot of people, pedestrians, bicyclists, ladies with strollers, and they're vulnerable. And there's been crimes committed out there. And I believe it needs to be monitored on a regular, daily basis. Also, Sawmill Trail, the intersection of East Richardson and the Sawmill Trail, y'all are aware of the parking lot there. It is a swamp. It needs to be addressed. It's embarrassing. People try to park there and cannot. If you get a chance, you should go over there and look at it. Potholes, mosquito infested, it needs to be addressed. And finally, there is a homeless problem in Somerville. There is a serious homeless problem in Somerville. I retired from teaching 30 years and I'm out and about a lot, so I see it. It's almost everywhere. And I just know it needs to be addressed. And finally, I started off saying that I live on Highway 17. I don't live very far from that Amico, nor do I live that far from Mr. Bailey. And that road has become a traffic nightmare as far as speed. And I have gotten my paper out of my yard many mornings and my life is in my own hands. They go way too fast. And I believe the speed limit out there is 25 to 35. They go far faster than that. I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I would like it to be in the form of a question so I can get some answers, maybe at a private meeting, whatever. But I believe as a citizen and a taxpayer, I think these are serious concerns.
Thank you.
Sir, if you'll stand there just a second, these are public comments and I'm the only person that can address you.
Okay.
One, the service station.
Yeah.
The island, we've given that guy permission to take that island out. And I will go talk to him because I didn't know that it wasn't gone.
No, sir.
And Mr. Jenkins and I were just talking about it the other day, and I'll see if he can get that island gone. He can't take it all the way out, but he can take most of it out.
Is it his responsibility?
Yes, his responsibility.
Why would that be?
Yeah, and we will try to get him to work with us on that.
Why?
He's a nice guy.
He is.
That's
He
all
is.
I can tell you about that.
Okay.
The speed limit on 17A there is 30 to 35 miles an hour. That's up to South Carolina DOT. We don't have anything to do with that, but I'll talk with our police chief and we'll make sure that they can get some, make sure they monitor the speed limits out there.
That would be
In front
appreciated.
of your, in front of where you live, and take care of that. And what was one of the other concerns?
Sawmill Trail.
Yeah, the
Security.
Sawmill Trail, we're very concerned about that. We're getting ready to go through probably a process with Sawmill Trail with the Berlin G. Myers Parkway. That's gonna be a big concern of ours. We will be working with you on that to try to make sure that we're concerned with that. The East Richardson Avenue parking lot, we're working on that right now. And we'll probably be taking care of that very shortly for you. So the same things that you were concerned about, we're on top of it. And hopefully we'll be taking care of some of that stuff real quick for you.
I would certainly appreciate that. I
And
appreciate
as far
you
as you
commenting
want,
on.
as far as you want to meet, all you gotta do is call my office. I'm Ricky Waring. I'm the mayor. Talk with Joe Weatherford, and you can come in any day, and I'm available, and you can meet with me in my office, and I'll try to address these things that you want on Monday, okay?
That would be greatly
Yes,
appreciated.
sir.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I know I spoke already. If you'll indulge me, I promise to keep it short. I just want to say to those of you guys who had objections to the Community Resource Center, I don't work with them directly, but I've worked with Lewis on other events. I think you guys made very legitimate points and objections. I learned about some of the things going on with them from hearing from you. So I think you guys all made legitimate points. I was going to come speak just because I was confused on that 3-4 vote. There's some that voted for, some that voted against on that motion. So I just wanted to say, into the record, thanks to Councilman McIntosh for clarifying that at least for us. And then going forward, I promise to relay these objections to the Community Resource Center. There's no excuse for some of the things that you guys mentioned that needs to be fixed. And hopefully if they ask for money this time next year, these objections will be taken care of. So thanks for being reasonable with them. You guys didn't have to do that. I appreciate you indulging me.
Thanks, CJ. Thank you. Thank you.
This time, hopefully I'm in order. My name is Cynthia Powell, and I am not I'm not personally connected with the Resource Center, but I will say this. At the mention of giving $2,500 for an affair that is going to take multiple days, you cannot have a party in your private home for $2,500 and you're expecting 50 people there. $5,000 is a little better, but I honestly thought 10 would have been more useful to the organization in order for them to do the advertising, the speakers that they intend to have, etc. As I said, I'm not here personally advocating for Louis Smith, but for the occasion, I am. I know it's a done deal, but the bottom line is, as an African-American here in Somerville, I would like to see more activities available in order to draw more African-Americans from outside of the town into Somerville. And I think it's going to be very difficult for you to advertise, basically serve food, whatever all they have planned. I don't know all of those, but I just wanted to make my point made before I left. I didn't want to get home and have to think about, I should have said this or that. The other thing is, I appreciate the opportunity to serve on the 8 tax committees. We basically get in there and deliberate with whatever is given to us. And it is always helpful when members of those that are applying are there to answer questions or to give us additional information, like the museum. We were very intrigued by all of the things that they brought forth that they have been doing. I've never been to the museum in my adult years, and I plan to go after listening to that presentation when we met Monday, I believe it was, whatever day it was, Friday. And so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else got any comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
You can pull it
down. What? You can pull it down if you like. No, I did the screen. I'm too short, but that's all right.
Pull the screen down.
I'm Naomi Nimmo, the Executive Director of the Somerville Orchestra, and I want to thank you very much for your grant to us of the $35,000. What we did this year when we were closed down because we rehearse and perform in school buildings for Dorchester 2, all of that was closed. So what we did instead was we did concerts outside. We have not played in North Charleston in 8 years. So you're a little behind times on that. We only play in Somerville. We did our jazz group in Hutchinson Square. We had a concert of hope in Hutchinson Square. We're playing on Sunday for your town. Our encore series our Christmas concert and our Concert of Hope and our library series were all free to everybody this year. Our earned income ticket sales was 0 for a whole year, but we got grants, your money. We didn't do our concert series because we were closed out of Dorchester, the Summers Corner Performing Arts Center. So we still have that H-tax money for marketing that for next year. And I've always understood that all the money that you give through any of the A-taxes are for 2 years, not just 1 year. So we saved that because we could not perform. We were not allowed in there. We are going to use it when we start up again in October. And everything that you gave us is all our outreach programs. And we did all of those. Some of them were online, some of them were in person, some of them were restricted capacity, but we did everything we could with no money, except for your money and donations from the public. So thank you very much for letting us continue doing outreach for this community with great music. And one other thing, and then, oh, I have 2 minutes. Okay, one other thing, next year, starting in October, our subscription series of 5 concerts over 2 nights each will be all American composers the whole year. We are very excited about that. There will be racially mixed, women, men. It's going to be an American series next year. I think you'll enjoy it very much because we're so proud of our town and our country. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Desiree, and I'm the new museum director at SDM. So I just wanted to introduce myself quickly to the council and say hello. And I understand that the budget was much higher than you've seen before and that you want to ensure collaboration. One of the programs that will be purchased to increase tourism is Vive Art. Vive Art will make us connected to the majority of the museums in the world. The National Museum of Australia even uses this program. And so we can reach tourists that the museum has never had before. And so we appreciate you improving our budget. And we look forward to hopefully bringing international tourists to Somerville. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I say, Mayor, it's nice that our circa 1600 town is getting into the 21st century.
That's right. That's right. Bob. Thank you. Anybody else? Public comments? Okay. Okay. Need a
Mr.
motion to
Mayor, I'd
go
make
into-
a motion, we go into executive session to discuss personnel and legal issues. Do I need to mention all of them, Mr.
Yes.
Parker?
Yes, sir.
The personnel matter related to appointment of the Design Review Board to receive legal advice regarding the employee handbook and legal matters relating Summit Contracting Group's appeal of business license.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, ayes carried. Let's go into executive session, get this thing done.